would beat the shit out of him now if I could.
A few moments later.
That's right, folks. You thought my thumbnail was an exaggeration. There's no way Tim Walz would say anything so stupid. No, it was worse. And this was on an interview on the Bulwark podcast. We're going to dice that up. We're going to show you this. This is going to be one of the funnest videos I've ever made. So watch it through to the end, folks, because there is so much material. I spent hours with my daughter scouring the web. We had to cut so much out, so we've distilled this to the best. But the bottom line is Tim Walz actually said that he could kick J.D. Vance's butt. That's right. You're going to see that and much more as we go through this video. Do me a favor, though. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, but let's get rolling right into the interview.
I've been cheerleading you the last 2 weeks. Can I give you my one bone that I've got to pick with you, though? If we're gonna hang out?
I have noticed in the past that you are not, you have been able to do that some.
I do have a couple bones. Gunnar. I appreciate you coming on. Yeah. Particularly with J.D. Vance. You had to be on the debate stage with him. He's the current vice president. He shared a Stephen Miller post this week calling Alex Preddy an assassin.
We did see some issues here with Alex Preddy and his statements, okay? So he did have broken ribs from a prior incident with ICE agents. He did delete some of his social media accounts. All of that did happen. And so Alex Preddy wasn't just the innocent bystander, the VA nurse that they portrayed him to be. He had been radicalized by the far left mob.
Assuming good faith was maybe a mistake with J.D. Vance.
Look, I'll own it. But Tim, you've been around this long enough. No, when you're on a ticket, you take your orders. Look, I have agency on that, meaning I could have did this, but I am a good team player. And I will say this, I never kidded anybody about debates. I don't get joy out of beating someone in this or whatever. And I said,
does anybody out there, except for Tim, who's obviously in La La Land, think that he was in any way, shape, or form taking J.D. Vance to task in a debate, or that he could take J.D. Vance to task in a debate? That is completely ridiculous.
My community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times.
I'm a knucklehead at times. Do you guys remember that? That was when he was asked about his lies about China. But folks, this guy is so clueless. He's a knucklehead. Others are calling him a retard, and tell me where they're wrong.
I'd never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word in front of people. This is shameful. And I have yet to see an elected official, a Republican elected official, say, you're right, that's shameful. He should not say it. So look, I'm worried. We know how these things go. They start with taunts, they turn to violence. So.
If it's true, if the shoe fits, folks, but this is the same guy who is now claiming, and he claimed this on the Bulwark podcast as well, that if anybody deserves a Nobel Peace Prize, it's the violent mobs in Minnesota because of the peaceful protesters.
Amen to that on the peaceful protests, by the way. They wanted riots and just unbelievable bravery. And I'm so proud of your citizens.
Me too. And I'll tell you how proud I am. I'll tell you, if anybody deserves a Nobel Peace Prize, it's the people of Minnesota.
Folks, this is the most outlandish statement. You guys have seen the footage from the riots, the mobs out there gathered around. This one throws this is a footage outside of the hotel where an ICE officer or Border Patrol, I'm not sure which, I believe it was ICE, but was forced to be alone because the Minneapolis police would not show up, and he took a brick to the head.
Get back!
Yeah. Yeah, a brick to the head? I mean, peaceful protesters, because Tim Walz can't stop himself from lying. But he had to prepare for that debate, folks. Tim Walz had to do some preparation. What did he do?
I think he was well prepped. It was strange to me to be in the presence of someone who I couldn't see a tell on him when he lied. It was so smooth. Usually you can see it like with me. I'm like, oh, I'm a terrible liar. I'm a terrible poker player.
That's right. So he has to prepare for the debate, but instead he talks about how much J.D. Vance prepared for the debate. Because, you know, it's impossible because J.D. Vance is such a liar, but he prepared so well. How did J.D. Vance prepare for that debate?
Back to my question. So Donald Trump has enlisted the help of Tulsi Gabbard to prep for his debate. I'd like to know how you were prepping for a debate with Tim Walz, who has described himself as a bad debater. Who's helping you, and how are you prepping?
Well, I found a good friend from back home who embellishes and lies a lot, and I'm having him stand in for Tim Walz. That's what we're doing during our debate.
That's right. If you want to, I mean, Tim Walz is so unaware, folks. We'll show you some of his top lies coming right up here, but I do need to mention my sponsor. That's MyPillow, mypillow.com/lumberjack. Not only for big savings on the best sleep products available, folks, but products that'll wake you up. My favorite energy drink is this Rev 7. The green apple is the best flavor. You will absolutely love it. He also has the coffee, and he now has the Rev 7 shots, which is the smaller, almost like the little 5-hour energies, and very tart. I love that lemon flavor in that. So if you like a good tart lemon flavor, fantastic. Go check it out. I use those all the time before I do cycle, these Rev 7s. 1-800-568-2865. Again, that's 1-800-568-2865 to get yours, all of the great sleep products and free shipping right now. But I think Tim Walz's biggest lies that he told during that debate, of course, he has a tough time lying, but I believe they were on abortion, and I will prove just how demonstrably false they were.
Now to the issue of reproductive rights. Governor Walz, after Roe versus Wade was overturned, you signed a bill into law that made Minnesota one of the least restrictive states in the nation when it comes to abortion. Former President Trump said in the last debate that you believe abortion, quote, in the 9th month is absolutely fine. Yes or no? Is that what you support? I'll give you 2 minutes.
That's not what the bill says.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? We're going to play a video. This is Tim Walz signing the bill to legalize killing of babies up to birth through abortion in Minnesota. Democrats literally applauding this. This is a satanic movement, folks. Listen to what he says at the end.
It is law.
It is law. Just because it's law, whatever is legal is not necessarily moral, folks. Don't ever forget that. Let me take you to, because he said that he hadn't done this, I want to take you right off the Minnesota Revisor, the law website here in Minnesota. Reproductive freedom, I want you to bring you to this. In 3B, every individual who becomes pregnant has a fundamental right to continue the pregnancy and give birth or obtain an abortion and to make autonomous decisions on how to exercise this fundamental right. It goes on further in law to say the government can't interfere. That means there's no restrictions whatsoever on abortion. But furthermore, folks, he then goes on to say that, well, he tells another big lie on the debate stage. I'm going to show you why that's a lie. He tells you it's been fact-checked. You know how this fact-checking media works.
But as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric.
Folks, that is exactly what the Minnesota law is, okay? This is absolutely barbaric, and I will show you. It's a bit of wordsmithing. It's a bit of sleight of hand. But first, let's watch this video. I mean, he is so far to the left. Nancy Pelosi is trying to calm him down.
And my record is so pro-choice, Nancy Pelosi asked me if I should tone it down. I stand with Planned Parenthood, and we won.
Yeah, stands with Planned Parenthood, the largest abortion provider in the U.S., gets a lot of money funneled back to him through that, and your taxpayer dollars are paying for actually going to Planned Parenthood that they then funnel back into Democrat campaigns. That's another big fraud that's going on in Minnesota that isn't being covered. Okay, and I'll show you. Here it is. The Minnesota Born Alive Infant Protection Act enjoyed wide bipartisan support until recent years. Okay. However, in 2023, a narrow DFL-only majority in the legislature passed an omnibus bill, SF 2995, that repealed or amended numerous laws relating to abortion, including the Born Alive Infants Protection Act. No longer must reasonable measures be taken to preserve the life and health of the born alive infant. Instead, measures must be taken only to care for the infant who is born alive. Folks, that's what you do. That's what we call end-of-life care. That's what we call hospice for babies. Okay, so Tim Walz can try and mince words. He can say that the liberal media has fact-checked it, but we know the truth, okay? This guy has many problems, much of them related to China, where he was such a knucklehead.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said.
That's what he said.
I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy
This is the
protest
worst debate performance
and
I've
from
ever
that,
seen.
I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance from the Chinese. That's right. He is in love with China.
Walz has been criticized for embellishing or telling outright falsehoods about his military record and about his travels to Asia in the 1980s. In your debate with J.D. Vance, you said, "I'm a knucklehead at times." And I think you were referring to the time that you said that you were in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square unrest when you were not.
Yeah.
Is that kind of misrepresentation, isn't that more than just being a knucklehead?
I think folks know who I am, and I think they know the difference between someone expressing emotion, telling a story, getting a date wrong rather than a pathological liar like Donald Trump.
But I think it comes down to the question of whether you can be trusted to tell the truth.
Yeah, well, I can. I think I can. I will own up to being a knucklehead at times, but the folks closest to me know that I keep my word.
The folks closest to Tim are the ones hardest on him. Do you remember his family in Nebraska? None of them want to vote for the guy. You've got to be kidding me. He has visited China 30 times, held senior ranking security clearance in China. He's founded a company for U.S. student travel to China. He was married on June 4th, the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. Listen to why he picked that date.
I lived in China, and as I said, I've been there about 30 times. I don't fall into the category that China necessarily needs to be an adversarial relationship. I totally disagree.
Tim Walz and his wife got married on the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre because his wife said he wanted a date he would always remember.
That's right, because he was
and
there.
For their honeymoon, they went to, yes, you guessed it, China.
Yeah. Tim Walz, I mean, there's liars, darn liars, and then there's Tim Walz, folks, who takes lying to an art form while telling the interviewer that it's just hard for him to understand J.D. Vance because he lies so well, and Tim just doesn't know how to lie because he gives these tells he'd be such a terrible poker player.
It was strange to me to be in the presence of someone who I couldn't see a tell on him when he lied. It was so smooth. Usually you can see it, like with me, I'm like, oh, I'm a terrible liar. I'm a terrible poker player.
You know, this guy, Tim Walz, most masculine man known to man. That's right. He scares us. He scares us, folks. He scares conservatives. He scares Republicans running for office because he's so masculine.
But I think this notion of toxicity and masculinity needs to be separated. And I think it's been conflated. And I think we're going to have to work on that a little bit. And I think there is a crisis.
I think some of us scare them. I think I scare them a little bit why they spend so much time on this. No, I'm serious because I can fix a truck. They know I'm not bullshitting on this. Yeah. So I'm not putting this in people's grill. I don't know if my identity is not hunting. My identity is not football coaching. My identity is not, a beard and a truck.
His identity, folks, was being governor. This is why all this is so hard on him. That's why stepping down was so difficult for him. But he tries to make his identity hunting because he goes out and does hunting photo shoots, folks. This is the guy who can't even tell you what a woman is, and he's trying to tell you how masculine he is. Do you remember this footage?
What is a woman? What is a woman is the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question here.
I mean, it's not hard, Timmy. It's not hard. I mean, what is a woman? I mean, it reminds me of Ketanji Brown Jackson. So yeah, JD Vance, I remember this clip as well. I mean, if he honestly thinks he can kick JD Vance, beat the shice out of him in a debate, I find that hard to believe as I watch this clip of JD Vance.
It's very tough rhetoric from a guy who just quit because his fraudulent activities have been uncovered. Look, Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. The idea that he's some sort of freedom fighter, he's not. He's a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe, in fact, has participated in fraud. That's what this new Assistant Attorney General position is going to find out. I don't care what Tim Walz says. I care about getting to the bottom of this fraud for the American people, and I care about enforcing the nation's immigration laws. That's what we're going to stay focused on.
You know, apparently J.D. Vance didn't get the memo because Governor Tim Walz had tweeted out before that Minnesotans have no tolerance for fraud. After, of course, Nick Shirley and his video came out. But Tim Walz actually has a strong proclivity towards fraud. He's benefiting from the fraud, folks. I mean, look at this. He paid Minnesota taxpayers. We're on the hook for $430,000. $430,000 so Tim could give the most incoherent and evasive congressional testimony of all time. Even the best legal advice, bankrolled by hardworking Minnesotans, couldn't help Tim defend his policies, as stated by Tom Emmer. $430,000 for him to go in front of Congress. That's how worried he was about that because of all the fraud that had been perpetuated on his watch, where he then just claimed plausible deniability and didn't do anything about it. But remember, this is the guy who is friends of school shooters, folks.
So I've become friends with school shooters.
I know it was a slip, folks, but Tim Walz lies so proficiently. I imagine the next one is going to be, there I was on the deck of the Titanic, folks. This is Tim Walz. He's a special kind of breed, a special kind of liar. And folks, he is no longer going to be the governor of Minnesota. Was going to run for a third term, but obviously has to step down. Again, please go check out my sponsor, MyPillow, mypillow.com/lumberjack. Of course, Mike Lindell running against Tim Walz for governor in the state of Minnesota. Go support his company while he runs out there campaigning all around. It's mypillow.com/lumberjack or 1-800-568-2865. You can see those mattress toppers, mattresses, all of it on sale. Those, you want to get the best sleep of your life? MyPillow products. Mike is serious about sleep. Okay. The best products. I love it. I love those Giza sheets. Oh gosh, I love those. And they got the colors back in for that. Free shipping. Folks, go get yourself some. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.